Hey everybody, it's Bob Crossan, Senior Managing Editor for Water and Waste Digest. And like we're doing all July long, we are highlighting our young professionals for 2020. Today I have with me Navid Mehram, COO of Wastewater Operating Services for the Great Lakes Water Authority. So Navid, thank you so much for being on the call with me today. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so based on your questionnaire responses, you were introduced to the water industry kind of your own accord, but could you talk a little bit about how you got into it and what kept you interested in it?
Absolutely. So it's interesting because I was very fortunate as I grew in my career in the water as an engineer and then kind of transitioned into the water sector. I had multiple mentors that really helped me focus my career on into the wastewater sector. It really started with one of the senior engineers, Terry Woodward, with URS when I was in the consulting, that wanted assistance with doing CAD work. And he got me involved. He started doing, giving me small little projects. I started asking him questions, digging into the details, and just kind of from that experience and his guidance, it really helped me focus and find the how unique and interesting the water sector is and how fluid the design can be, and it has to be specific to each facility because each facility has its own unique processes or little things that are just special to that facility. And those things was what really attracted me to kind of being able to apply ingenuity to every application and not just have to use a textbook every time. So that's what really got me there.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting too, you're on the wastewater side based on your title, and there's a ton of really cool things there. And there's obviously very big differences between the approaches to water and wastewater and what drives people to each of them. Could you talk about how wastewater has been more of an influence for you over water, or how that kind of delineation occurred?
Yeah, so I like hydraulics. Hydraulics is definitely something that I think that it's unique because we have our equations, we have our ways that we can calculate it, but then it also has some personal characteristics to it that you have to kind of really understand and realize the application and apply it correctly. So hydraulics really took my attention away, but then with wastewater, what I like about it is how the biology in the process works and the activated sludge process. And now with all the new technologies that are coming on with with the different solids management, the ways that we can handle solids, the renewable resource that we have in wastewater, all those things are really what really started pulling me towards wastewater. On the water side, I've done mostly on the hydraulic side of it, conveyance, but not nearly as much I have done with wastewater treatment and just how creative you can be with wastewater treatment.
Yeah. Well, as COO, you've already reached a pretty high achievement, I would say, for your role. What are some of your other aspirations that you have for being in the water industry now that you're pretty well established?
So for me, the big thing that I want to focus on is really the decisions now that I make in this role. Having the responsibility of such a large facility and setting the path for this sector moving forward, I think that we are recognized as one of the leading utilities in the region and also in the country, and people are looking to the directions that we're going. And I think for us to continue to make the best decisions, to make decisions that are going to last for another 100 years, it's a significant amount of pressure to make sure that what we do today and the decisions we make today are going to be sustainable and reliable for the next 100 years to provide the service for our member partners and for the communities we serve.
Yeah, and not pigeonhole future leaders in the industry, I would imagine too.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So what you also mentioned in your questionnaire that your father took quite a few risks to bring your family here to the United States. Could you talk about what kind of an influence he's been on you, and um, kind of the process that he went through to bring you guys to the country?
Yeah. So when we came here, I was just a child, and my dad, took on a lot. So recently, I looked at the age my dad was, and he was close to my age today when he came to this country, and he had two kids and my wife, my mom, and just to take on a risk that big is one stepping stone, which I commend him for, because sometimes I look at myself and I'm like, I don't take too many risks. I'm in the water sector, right? I don't take risks. I try to make very systematical thought process, but he kind of just jumped in and took on a risk and was able to be successful with it. So that, I think, it helps me assure that there is definitely, if you continue to stick to a path and set yourself a goal and work very, very hard. And he worked very hard in being able to be successful here and get us, where we are today. Um, that really helped me kind of look at how I approach every day. I don't give up, be persistent, continue driving forward towards the mission. I think all those things is how I kind of focus my career. Um, the influence is just, it's amazing. And I'm so thankful for what they have done to be able to kind of get me to where I am today.
Yeah, I mean, it's serious commitment on your father's part, really, to move an
Absolutely.
entire family. So
I tell my wife all the time, it's like, if we had to just start from scratch, how would we even do it? I can't even visualize it right now. So it's 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 pretty impressive for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Well, and you also mentioned your uncle being a big influence on you. Could you talk a little about your uncle and how he has influenced you as well?
Yeah, so my uncle actually was the one that was in US for a long time prior to us coming. He committed so much time to our family and helping us kind of stand up on our 2 feet, and also helping me specific. I wasn't the best young student, I guess you could say, growing up in my career. Just attention span and just wanting to try different things and just not being very focused. Um, he taught me selflessness. Really, he gave all the time that was necessary, one for me specifically, to kind of grow as an individual, but also just interactions with him and other individuals. So his career, he was a doctor, he's an OBGYN, and the people that would meet with him, and we would be out at a restaurant, people would say hi to him, they were thankful for him, they had their kids, he had them. And um, it was just a unique environment because of how they would praise him. And to be that, selfless is where people will recognize and how important it is to be able to focus on other people than just yourself. So he's definitely a great human being, and I've been very fortunate to have him in my life.
Yeah, yeah. Someone to certainly aspire to be like more like, right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Just you got to stop every once in a while and think, I'm thinking too much about myself. I need to just stop and just focus on other people. And he helped me identify those stopping points for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So getting back to the kind of the water industry side of things, what do you see are basically the three critical issues that we're facing in the water industry today? I imagine with your role as COO that you have kind of a different perspective than a lot of the other young professionals that we have. So just
Sure,
curious what your thoughts
sure.
are.
So, right, what I see in the next 20, 50 years is really we have a lot of emerging pollutants that are kind of surfacing nowadays. Not only because of our knowledge is growing in the water sector, and with the kind of some of the crises that happen, or some of the health issues that are happening, we're learning so much more with how important water and wastewater is for us and for the longevity of the human beings. So with the technology advancing and our monitoring abilities advancing, we're learning so much more, and we have to be able to respond quicker and we have to be able to respond, not only financially supporting this response, but also making sure that we protect the public health and the influence that we experience. I also think that with the infrastructure that we have today, with, for example, with water efficiencies, with different abilities and people becoming more wise on how they use water and how we used to waste water so much. Waste water, not wastewater, right? The infrastructure that we have, one, is deteriorating, and two, is oversized. How do we manage this large asset, right size it, and make it financially sustainable for the next 100 years? There was a lot of infrastructure that was built back when things were good, and now we are kind of set with this deteriorated infrastructure, and how do we bring it back to life and maintain it for the next 100 years? And finally, for me, I think is the resources that are in wastewater specifically, and the resources that are available to us, and how can we capitalize and maximize the amount of resources that we extract from wastewater and utilize it as an asset and not just waste it down the drain. I think those are going to be the big things that we're going to focus on. There's a lot of technology being plugged into and pushed into wastewater and water. And I see us being able to advance that to make sure that we have a reliable system for our ratepayers and our member partners.
Yeah, yeah. It seems kind of like technologically, I feel like we're kind of at this weird turning point where we're switching into a lot of digital alternatives for things in a way that we hadn't seen in the past 10 to 20 years or so. So I feel you on that.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So, how do you think the industry can best attract the next generation of workers? Obviously, this is becoming a bigger and bigger issue as more people start to retire, and there's a lot of really smart minds that we're going to be losing. How do
Sure.
you refill those spaces, and what are some tools do you think utilities and other employers can use to get these next generation of workers involved in the industry?
So I think that one of the great things that we have is a technology. Technology is driving a lot of interest into what we do. And resource recovery is another big thing on the interest of being able to expand. We're not now just a treatment plant. We're actually a resource recovery facility. And it is a lot more attractive because now we're actually becoming more of a production and being able to kind of advance the environment and what we can do. One thing that I'm proud of is GLWA has a pretty aggressive apprenticeship program. We just recently successfully graduated 20 instrument tech, EICTIs is what we call them, but it's basically instrument tech apprenticeship program. And we recently initiated an apprenticeship program for electrical journeymen, and we are looking at potentially an apprenticeship program for plant technicians and water technicians. So continuing to fund and support an apprenticeship program and building into our career, building into our profession, I think it's going to be the foundational step towards becoming more sustainable and having new individuals coming into the sector and as people retire out, and because we do have definitely a shortage in the skill that's necessary to be able to successfully treat water and wastewater.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like that apprenticeship program sounds really important. It sounds like it's done a good job for you
Absolutely.
guys.
Absolutely. We count on it and we look forward to it, and we provide all the resources that's necessary to be able to maintain it for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much, Navid. I really appreciate you taking the time today, and it's just great talking to you and getting to hear more about the stuff that you guys are doing and your history too, and where your career is leading you.
I appreciate the time. I'm very thankful for this honor to be able to be part of this team. Um, just having the opportunity to be part of GLWA and being recognized as a young professional is pretty great. And I continue to look forward to being able to drive forward the water and wastewater sector in this in our country.
Yeah. Well, we'll have our eyes on you for sure. So
Appreciate it.
cool. Well, thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.